Welcome to my new off-grid skills series. Before we begin, let's get one thing straight. I'm not one of those people who can build a house with a toothpick, wire up a solar system blindfolded and repair a tractor using a bit of baling twine and an old boot. What I am is someone who's spent years living differently, on the road, in those horrible brick square things, and now off-grid in rural Wales. Along the way, I've made mistakes, broken things, learned a few useful tricks, and discovered that you don't need to be an engineer, a carpenter, or a survival expert to make this lifestyle work. The most important skill isn't knowing everything, it's being willing to learn. So, in this series, we'll look at the practical skills, tools, systems and mindset that can help you live more independently, whether you're thinking about van life, boat life, smallholding, or going fully off-grid. So How to Live Off-Grid by Dicky. So the first part we're going to cover is solar power for off-grid living, part 1. This is a new bunch of vids I'm going to do on off-grid living. We're going to start with solar. There's probably going to be about 3 or 4 parts on this. One of the first questions people ask when they think about living off-grid is simple. Where does the electricity come from? Most people assume you need a massive solar array, wind turbines, a diesel generator, or thousands of pounds worth of equipment. Reality is that many off-grid people now rely primarily on solar power. I've been living off-grid in mid-Wales for several years, running everything from lighting, computers to refrigeration, even a washing machine using solar energy. In this series, I'm going to show you what works, what doesn't, what mistakes I've made, there's quite a few of them, and how you can build a reliable system without spending a fortune. I'll also give you some simple calculations. You can't fucking do it without them, so buckle up. I'll try and be kind. So solar power has become one of the most popular energy sources for people living off-grid, and for good reason. Once you've bought and installed the equipment, the fuel is completely free. The sun. Every day the sun shines, your system is generating electricity without costing you a penny. Unlike generators, solar panels are completely silent. There's no engine noise, no vibration, no need to annoy your neighbours every time you want to charge a battery or boil a kettle. For many people, that peace and quiet is one of the biggest benefits. Solar systems also require very little maintenance. There are no moving parts to wear out, no oil changes, and no fuel filters to replace, apart from occasionally cleaning the panels and checking connections. They largely look after themselves. Another advantage is flexibility. You don't need to install a huge system from day one. Many people start with a single panel and a battery, and gradually add more panels and storage as their needs grow and their budget allows. Solar works well on vehicles, boats, caravans, cabins and permanent off-grid homes. Whether you're travelling around the country or living on a small holding, middle of nowhere, the same basic principles apply. Perhaps the biggest advantage of all is independence. You're producing your own electricity rather than relying on campsites, hookups or the national grid. What gives you freedom to live where you want and stay where you want. Of course, solar isn't perfect. There are challenges, particularly during the winter months, and we'll be looking at those next. But for many off-grid people, solar power is the technology that makes modern off-grid living practical and affordable. Also, solar prices have collapsed over the last 15 years. A panel that once cost hundreds of pounds can now be bought second-hand for a fraction of the price. I paid £10 each for 6 out of 8 of my 250-watt panels. The question I also get asked, more than any other probably, is can you really survive a UK winter using solar power alone? The honest answer is yes, but with some important caveats. During the summer months, solar power is almost ridiculously effective. Long daylight hours and strong sunshine mean that many systems produce far more electricity than their owners actually use. In fact, during the summer, I often find myself looking for things to power because the batteries are already full. Winter is a completely different story. The days are shorter, the sun sits much lower in the sky, and we can go for days, sometimes weeks, with heavy cloud cover. A solar system that performs brilliantly in July may struggle badly in December if it hasn't been designed properly. The biggest mistake beginners make in designing a system based on summer performance. Almost any solar setup works in summer. The real test comes during the darkest weeks of the year. If your system can get through December and January, it will usually cope with the rest of the year without any difficulty. The good news is that plenty of off-grid people do successfully use solar throughout the winter. Trick is understanding that winter requires a different approach. You either need more solar panels, more battery storage, lower electricity consumption, or ideally a combination of all three. Many experienced off-gridders also have some form of backup. Might be a Jenny, a vehicle charging system, small wind turbine, there's water systems you can get as well, a mains hookup used occasionally, or a portable power station that can be topped up elsewhere. Having a backup doesn't mean your solar system has failed or you've failed, it simply means you're being realistic about UK weather. It's also worth remembering that heating is usually the biggest energy demand in winter. Most successful off-grid systems don't use electricity for space heating. Instead, they rely on wood stoves, gas heaters, or diesel heaters, non-electrical heating methods. Solar is generally used for lighting, refrigeration, computers, communications, pumps, and everyday electrical needs. Bottom line is this: you can absolutely get through winter using solar power, but you need to design your system for winter conditions, not summer. Solar isn't magic, but when it's properly planned, it can provide reliable power all year round, even in the middle of a Welsh winter. Another question people ask is whether they have the technical skills needed to build and maintain a solar power system, and the answer might surprise you. Now, I should probably start by admitting that although I'm a professor of physics by profession, my students used to joke that I should be thrown out of the lab because my practical and technical skills was so bad. Give me equations, research papers and grant applications and I'm fine. Give me a toolbox and things become a little bit more interesting. The point is that building off-grid solar systems isn't really about being naturally gifted with tools or electronics. It's about being willing to learn. When I first started looking at solar systems, I didn't know what half the components did. I had to learn about batteries, charge controllers, cable sizes, fuses and inverters, just like everybody else. I made mistakes, asked questions and gradually figured things out. Good news is that modern solar systems are far easier than they used to be. There are countless tutorials online, plenty of forums full of knowledgeable people, and modern equipment is often designed to be as simple as possible to install and use. So solar power isn't magic, and it isn't perfect. In winter, you'll need to think about energy much more carefully than someone living in a house connected to the grid. But the freedom it gives you is extraordinary. So what we're going to cover in this series is finding cheap and free solar panels, battery types, building a simple solar system, 12-volt lighting systems, modern power stations like Bluettis, Jackeries, EcoFlow, etc., solar controllers, real-world system design, common mistakes and safety, expanding your system, and quantum chromodynamics and the physics of complex nuclear reactions in the sun. No, we won't cover that, sorry. So, that's part 1, and part 2 will come soon and get a bit more geeky. Hope you enjoyed that and found it at least a little bit useful. I know it's a bit wanky, but if you can leave comments, etc., it gets the message out there. It does improve the readership and gets it over the YouTube algorithm. So stay well, stay safe, fuck the system.